International briefing. A sudden collapse of the sky eastern and southwestern China hit by extreme rains on the same day. Cities turned to seas, valleys to rivers. New York, Beijing. On September 2nd, 2025, Hangzhou, capital of Zhejiang province in eastern China, was slammed by fierce winds and a burst of torrential rain. In the span of an hour, flash flooding turned subway entrances into catch basins. At the same time, hundreds of miles away in Yunnan province, mountain floods and landslides surged across steep terrain, paralyzing transport in cities and countryside alike. The twin shocks to an eastern megacity and a southwestern mountain region exposed shared weaknesses in urban drainage and highland disaster defenses, just as Hainan Island braces for a storm-heavy September. Hangzhou. From light afternoon shower to waist-deep water in 1 hour. Around 2 p.m. local time on September 2nd. Hangzhou's sky darkened abruptly and streetlights flicked on. Minutes later, a violent downpour swept through the city, accompanied by force 10 gusts. In some locations, short-duration rainfall neared 107 millimeters. Trees snapped and signboards shook violently. By around 3 p.m., the area around Shima subway station exit A and Lidong Road became a low-lying bowl. Muddy, yellow runoff laden with silt washed from nearby slopes poured in, and streets turned into rivers. Multiple cars stalled, and pedestrians clustered beneath eaves to shelter. Rescue crews reached the scene around 3:30 p.m., set up cordons, stacked sandbags, and evacuated those stranded. By approximately 4:30 p.m., as the rain eased, water receded rapidly and municipal teams moved in to clear sludge. Specialists say the southern hillside's topography funneled slope runoff into a low point, where blocked flows and converging streams amplified a sudden flash flood effect at the subway entrance. The only silver lining, it didn't hit during the evening rush. Yunnan. Steep slopes turned rainfall into accelerated water. Unlike Hangzhou's surface flooding, Yunnan's danger stemmed from three-dimensional terrain. Consecutive heavy rains gathered energy in narrow valleys. Mountain torrents roared downward, sweeping mud and debris into low-lying towns. Urban underground garages and retail podiums took on water. Rural fields were smothered in thick silt. Livestock operations were damaged. County roads and bridges suffered scour damage. Rail and flight schedules were curtailed, and rescue access was slowed hard to get in, harder to get people out. In temporary shelters, displaced residents recalled water reaching our waists within minutes, leaving no time to save belongings. Even as engineering teams worked overnight to clear blockages, reinforce embankment, and restore power and communications, the sudden ascent, the cascading hazards of landslides and debris flows made rescue windows painfully short. The next flashpoint, Hainan's typhoon season. Farther south, Hainan Island could face 2 to 3 tropical systems in September, 1 or 2 of them with combined risks of extreme rainfall plus storm surge. Monthly precipitation is projected at roughly 160 to 400 millimeters, with significantly higher totals in the east and south central zones. If the storm coincides with astronomical high tides and waves of 4 meters or more, low-lying coasts and river deltas could encounter the worst-case tide, wind, rain, and waves resonance for North American travelers and surf tourists. A high season might abruptly pause. Why Americans should care. First, Hangzhou sits in the Yangtze River Delta, one of the world's key hubs for electronic, apparel, and cross-border e-commerce. Even a single day of warehouse and trunk line disruption can ripple through orders and restocking weeks later. Yunnan is also a land gateway to mainland Southeast Asia. When roads snap, cross-border logistics slows. Second, the stacking of extreme weather is increasingly a mirror, not a distant spectacle. New Yorkers remember the 2021 subway flooding, Today's images of water at Hangzhou Station feel uncannily familiar. Finally, these events pose a blunt policy question. In an era when once in a century strikes far more often, should drainage, floodways, and coastal standards be rewritten? On the ground and in people's minds, between fear and ingenuity. On Chinese social platforms, short clips from Hangzhou showed backwash waves running against traffic. Some people lifted manhole covers to speed drainage. Others queued to borrow mops and portable pumps from nearby shop. In Yunnan, volunteers drove pickups and inflatable boats to shuttle seniors, children, and pets. Amid chaos and fear, flashes of self-help neighbors helping neighbors hit a chord that American audiences will recognize. Science and takeaways: divert, store, and drain slowly. Experts urge cities to pivot from just drain it to capture, split, and slow release. Fix each flood-prone spot with tailor-made measures. Raise key entrances. Add overflow outlets and detention tank. Manage subways and underground malls with zone flood control checklists for position floodgates and backflow valves before the rain. Build silt and mud interception plus spill channels along mountain fronts to blunt peak slope runoff. For mountain counties and townships, weave a denser flash flood early warning mesh with a closed loop linking rainfall threshold, evacuation route, and receiving site. Better to evacuate 100 times for nothing than once too late. Along the coast, conduct joint storm, surge drills during astronomical high tides, and hold the red line of 0 fatalities. What to watch next? 3 threads. First, will compound extremes appear: prolonged heavy rain followed by a storm surge event. Second, can authorities quickly patch the flood risk maps of critical node? Third, do warnings actually reach people, and do people act on them? For the global audience that tunes in for the next viral clip, you may once again see streets become rivers and water dripping into subways. For policymakers and city managers, however, the real plot turns on whether cities stop being the internet's routine traffic magnet. Conclusion: from Hangzhou to Yunnan and possibly to Hainan's next act, this test about water has burst past geography. It probes the limits of infrastructure, the speed of emergency systems, and our willingness to match extreme weather new normal with equally ambitious engineering and governance. For American readers, this isn't just someone else's storm, it's another stress test in an interconnected era. Before the next cloudburst, are our own cities ready? Travel and business advisory for trips to China. Track near-term forecasts and flight notices closely. Avoid low-lying areas and underground spaces. Never drive through floodwaters. Carry a power bank, some cash, and paper copies of key addresses in case of brief outages in communications or mobile payment.